Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Coach David Butler. Today's topic we're going to cover: can we develop coaches and the development of coaches? This is a subject that I have, you know, pushed for a number of months and time on Coaches Connected and through my own channel, and it's a subject that I personally hold near to myself, and I always try to, or I hope that we can develop coaches and bring coaches through in the roles that we have. And of course, everything that I talk about, one is always my own personal truth, and two is from an offensive coordinator's perspective. Those roles change if you're a DC, if you're a head coach, etc., etc. So there's always going to be a perspective of a certain angle because of the role that I occupy uh, within the coach structure myself. But everything that I do and everything I talk about is from an offensive coordinator perspective, which is why most of the content is offensive driven. Um, but today we are going to talk about developing coaches, but more so, can we develop coaches? What are we doing to develop coaches? What can we do as individual coaches to help other coaches and bring coaches through? And this is why I thought it was a great topic. I put a little question up on Twitter, and the subject was the one that won out either through replies, DMs, and private messages, etc. So this is one that went through, and this is something that I do really enjoy talking about and bringing up. And again, I'll go from the rip. I am not an oracle. I don't claim to know anything. In my opinion, I am an average coach, and I hopefully, am able to help other average coaches in any way, shape, or form if I can. If I can't, then that's fine. But I don't think for 1 minute that I know every answer and I know what we should be doing and what we need to do. I don't know any of those things. It's just my opinion, my truth, from my perspective, and that's all I ever can give you guys. And if there's one thing or one item that someone takes a watch and goes, actually, you know what, I can use that, then brilliant. And that's the whole point, because that's what happened to me through my own course and my own pathway. But we'll start through, and we'll talk about, I'll talk about how I try and develop coaches within my offensive staff. So you can see there, you've got the who, the why, and the how, and those are always the three questions, or the questions that we ask for coaches, basically the why and the how for the most part, right? And so when we say who, speaking from an individual's perspective, you have to say it and put your hand on heart that 75% of what you learn as a coach comes from you. You know, the team might provide you with some and certain aspects, but once you get your own pathway, you know that we as coaches, we spend hours and hours looking at film and watching clinics and attending clinics and attending practices and all those kind of things just to get better and better and better. And that learning never stops or should never stop. We always continue to grow and get better. The amount of clinic time we've spent and watched during the COVID era has been obviously a benefit to all coaches because we just continue to learn, digest information, and hopefully bring it forward into our future coaching experiences. So I always say that no matter what we do, you have to be hungry. And one thing that I always say is that if you never stop learning, if you think you know enough, you stop, you stop. So I'm always learning as a coach, and I've been doing this for 11, 12 years now. Every coach that I've been doing for a long time, they're always learning, always looking for more, looking for new ways. Now, our coaching development is always, for the most part, the onus is on us as an individual to get better and make the process that we need to make for us to improve ourselves. Whether that be your offensive coach, your defensive coach, or if you flip across and you do them all, which is obviously ideal at the end of the day if that's the path you want to choose. Then teams need to be accountable for developing coaches. And in terms of developing coaches, it's the angles they choose to bring through coaches. What can they do to make more coaches? And that might start with the head coach and what he deems um, he needs to do to bring coaches through and bring coaches up to the ranks, because that's what that's what we do as coaches. We have to bring people through. And my final point there on who is is it on our shoulders as a coordinator? Is it on my shoulders? Is it my responsibility to bring guys through? Is that what it's about? And those are the questions that you always ask. And I'll be totally honest, at the start of my career to now, that answer's changed a lot. At the start, it was just literally me, to a point where I got to midway through, midway through those 10 years, say 5, 6 years, it started to change a little bit. And in 16, 17, I started to do things a little bit differently and give opportunities and make opportunities that we'll talk about in this video. So it's not, I don't believe it's not on our shoulders as a coordinator, but I feel personally that we should be, be helping to develop those next guys coming through. So you can't ask to be a positional coach and develop other guys. That's not how it works. I don't have the experience. Um, so it's literally on head coaches and then it's just them the coordinators. But it starts with the team because that team needs to create coaches and keep going and keep going. And every team hopefully tries to bring coaches through. How they do that and how they try and intensify that. You know, every team is different. The teams that I've been around have always been, pretty good in taking care of the coaches they've got, and that goes a long way to paying forward. How the coaches give back to the clubs. And the next point there is why. Why do we develop coaches? Why do we need to develop coaches? And my always first point on this is, well, how did you learn offense? Did you read it all from a book? Did you watch videos, or were you lucky to be around someone that taught you the game? You know, was there someone there for you? Is my second point. And for me in this situation, there were the I went to learn. I went to my first team because I wanted to learn an offense. The offense that I wanted to learn, they ran, and their head coach at slash offense coordinator, he was open and honest, and he had the time and the patience to teach me an offense. And although he was the only guy that ever fired me, and we ended up not on bad terms, but we don't speak like we used to because of those situations. I'm forever grateful for the fact that he opened his arms and taught me an offense. I'm not saying he taught me every aspect of being a coach because he didn't, but he taught me an offense, and so we learn stuff and we take those next steps upon the ladder, and that's the reason why I think you ask yourself, how did I learn what I know? And did someone teach me? Was someone there for me? Did someone show me the ropes? You know, should I do that same thing, or should I be greedy and say, you know what, I was taught it, that's as far as it goes? And the why is pretty much the same as the who. The teams have a need for constant and continued growth because just like every year, especially in football, rosters change, players leave to go to another club because of moving jobs or things happen and they don't play no more. Those things happen to coaches too. You know, coaches will leave because they can't find the time. They're having children. They've got commitments that they can't do this and coaching full time. And you have to avoid that. You have to be um, able to move things forward, and that's why teams have that need to have that continued growth, and that's why they should be developing coaches, in my opinion. How they do that, and if they do a good enough job, every team is different, and every team will have a different answer, and that's why I would love to hear teams give us that. How are you developing your coaches? Because everybody will be different. Everybody will have a different answer. And the last part on there is the how. How are we developing coaches? Now, when I look at it, when I'm doing this, is I'm not asking anybody to run whatever I run. I'm not trying to force what I do onto somebody. Obviously, when you're in uh, our staff and our system, you're gonna learn what we run. But I'm not asking you to take that and use it. All I'm asking you is to just listen, take on board, and take those parts that you need to take to make you a better coach. And my final point there is we're developing coaches and we're developing them via experience. We're teaching them how to be a coach, and that talks about many aspects of coaching, and that's what we're trying to get into today. Is how do we bring through those next level, those next guys, those next beginner levels of coaches and bring them up. So we're not asking you to take an offense and run with it. I'm not asking you to be an air raid guy or a power read guy. I'm not asking you to do any of that. Or that's If that's the reason why you think you're doing it because you want to be that, you know, that guru and that man that they come to, that's not how it works. It's not what we're here for. I'm not asking you to take my offense and use it. I'm just saying take what you need from me and what I'm doing, that what you can use, and I'm going to try and grow you as a coach through experience. And the experience is what makes you, in my opinion, a better coach over time. This is the question that I often ask myself first and foremost when I started going through the process of what am I doing enough? And I was like, is it my responsibility? Is it on me to create and develop coaches? Is it really my job, or should I be worried about me and what I'm doing more than anybody else? And of course, as I've just pointed out a little bit earlier, the start of your career when you're trying to get your foothold in your feet wet, you worry about you more than anybody else. But over the course of a period of time, that mindset changes you because you're more comfortable, you're more confident, and you can deal with the parameters that get thrown at you. So that's why my attitude has changed. Is like, I'm not saying it's my responsibility, but everybody under my wing, and when I say staff, I only talk about offensive staff. Under my staff, I'll try and improve every single guy in there that wants to improve. Some guys just don't want to improve, but those guys who are really looking to improve, I will do my utmost and give them as much as I know and much as I can do for each and every one of them if they so want it. And of course, the bullet points on this one is that it's like staff hire. When you go into a team or you're on a team, it's like, do you inherit staff? What staff do you inherit? Are you walking into a team that's you're now the offensive coordinator, but they already have a receivers coach, a running backs coach, a line coach in place? Are you inheriting that already? Are you inheriting a pre-made staff, or are you inheriting a staff that's made up maybe of one guy, but you got the opportunity to bring your own guys in, and you say, well, I'm going to come and I'm going to bring Joe Bloggs as my offensive line coach, and I'm going to bring Freddie Bloggs as my receiver coach. Those two guys are going to come with me, and that's going to be part of our staff. Now, if you can do that, great, because that's continuity for yourself and it gives you confidence. It's never always like that, but sometimes if you can drop on those opportunities, it's a good thing. But 9 times out of 10, you inherit staff or you've got to build a staff. And when you build a staff, you have to be prepared to work with former players, and that's usually 9 times out of 10 the lifeblood of coaches around the UK. They usually come on as former players. They're playing careers winding down, and you can pretty much know who's going to be coming forward. Say, you know what, I'm getting to the end of time. I'd like to keep involved, and you're earmarking him, going, you know what, he can probably coach. He can probably get on board and you know jump into this coach. He's been a great servant for the club. Keep him on board, keep him in. The players like him, the players, gravitate towards him. Keep him involved. So former players is always a great avenue. One of the things that I've learned to adapt to over the course of time is working with new guys. Because we all have our own little circle, and we all have our own little thing, especially when you're with a club for a certain time. But working with new guys and you go somewhere else is always exciting. You learn about them and they learn about you. Uh, and that's a great thing. And sometimes you get walk-ons, and when I say walk-ons, it's just a guy from the street who sees football. And I'd like to coach, I'd like to have a go, and they know nothing about the game. And they just walk on to it's like, can I help? And you go, yeah, of course. There's always room for everybody. So you jump on and you put them on a role. It could be assistant, receivers coach. So their role is minimal, but they're on board and they're part of it all, and they're part of that staff, and that's how you build it in and and how you hire it. And then for me, when you put all the things together, that's your responsibility. That's my responsibility. I take care and I take ownership of that group, not the defensive staff, special team staff, just the offensive staff. Those are my group, those are my guys, and I take ownership of them, and I take ownership of what we do. And that's myself, my personal way of doing it. That's how I've always done it, and that's how I'll continue to do things moving forward. So when we put all them together, I'll put there, can you assess the dynamics of your staff? When you look at each individual, this is how you'll know the guys who really are keen to push forward in their own development. There are some guys, I was at the staff in 2019 at the Rev, and our QB coach was a former head coach. He'd been around for a long time, but he was really happy just to be a QB coach. He didn't want to go no further. He wasn't trying to push anything else. He just wanted to be around the guys and coach. And I like that and I respected it. He'd been there, he'd done that, but he was happy to be where he was. I've known, there's guys in that staff who've been like the coach for 10, 12 years. They don't want to go on a higher. They're happy to coach that unit and they don't want to go on a higher. I like that and I respect that. And then sometimes you got the younger guys, like one of the four players. He would always come and ask questions. You could just tell that like the two or three that was really up, really into it. You could tell that they're the guys that you want to earmark because you know what, he can be a guy that he's always asking questions. He always wants to know more. He's always asking, why do we do this? What's the plan when we do this? And you could tell from the demeanor of the person who wants to be developed, who's looking to get the most out of it, who wants to learn more and be better and be better. And that's how we attack it. And then we try and get them better. And this is how I always deal with it. This is how I've dealt with it since probably 16, 17. My two key elements on this is preparation and incorporation. That's how I try and help young coaches get a foothold in the game with preparation and incorporation. Again, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do or it's the best thing to do. This is how I attack it. And hopefully, anybody who you speak to that has been on my staff in the last 4 or 5 years will attest to the things that I talk about. I only always tell truths. I never put no bullshit out there. If I haven't done it, I won't say I've done it. But we prepare our guys to coach at the next stage up, and we incorporate them. I incorporate them in every aspect of what I do to bring them through and give them experience. And that's the main thing that we're trying to achieve here: is get coaches' experience and coaches' knowledge. Incorporation. Okay, this is the first thing that we do as a staff meeting pre-season. We'll get in and I'll talk about the plans for the year and what we do. And I like to incorporate, like I said, when you get those meetings in, and you get a feel for your staff who wants to develop, who's happy to be where they are. You can know who you're going to push where, what you're going to do. If that relationship coach is really keen, really eager, you can manipulate him to do more and more and more things. If a guy running the O-line loves O-line, doesn't want to do anything else, then you leave him to coach O-line and you help him where you need to help him. But you know full well if they're looking to push up that ladder or if they're looking to stay where they are. And even if they're staying where they are, I'm still going to give them opportunities to grow and do different things. So first thing that I always do, I always show them how I set up my offense, what I do, how I do it, the way that I do it, and what I want to achieve by doing all these, put all these pieces together. So we'll have these staff meetings and we'll talk about this is what we're doing. Puzzle. We put it all together, and this is what I want to achieve, and this is what I see you doing. This is what I see you doing. This is what I want to get from you, etc., etc. And then we could talk about how we approach practice plans and installs, and we'll talk about as a staff. This is my install. This is how I install my offense over 12 weeks, and why I install it over 12 weeks. I'm passing on that knowledge to them. I'll give it to them pre-season. I don't just start out there and say, this is the install schedule. Week 1, we're running inside zone. We talk about why we do all the things that we do, so that we're passing on that knowledge to them. So that if they want to do this 3 years from now, they go, oh well, when I was at so and so with Dave, he did this, and this. We could try that, or I could try that, and that's the idea. It's those little nuggets that you can give on, and those guys will take it and go, oh yeah, we did that. So we approach our installs and we talk about it as a staff, and I show them how I'm doing it and why I want to do it. And what I'm saying again, I'm never saying anything that I do is right or wrong or the best way. It's just what I do. And if anybody could take anything away from that, then that is the bigger picture, so to speak. So, and then we'll talk about practice and how we break down the practice and what we want to achieve in that practice. So when we talk about, I've spoken about it before on other videos, where installs and practice combined together, and we'll talk about how on week 1 we're running inside zone, and we were like, okay, Joe Bloggs, you're the receivers coach. I need these drills to fit this this concept this week. So I need you to, you know, run stance. I need you to run phase or whatever it's going to be. The play itself is irrelevant. What it is what we're doing. So they're going to go ahead there and source those drills in, and then we put it all together. And that, again, they put that practice plan into place. The practice plan is theirs to have forever. You know, it's not just a thing on screen where I keep it and I don't show it. They get it. They get everything that we do. Anybody wants to take anything that they want to, it's theirs to take. And that's what we do. And then the next part is that we involve them in scouting. We involve them in how we attack it, how we break down film, or how I break down film, you know, and then we incorporate them in that. So if we're scouting an opponent, you know what, we'll go into our group chat and I'll say, you know, make sure you're focusing on what the DBs are in. Kevin, you make sure you're focusing on what the fronts are. Come back and we'll talk about what's going on. So each member of the offensive staff goes away and works on an aspect of this week's scout. Now, as an offensive coordinator, I know that I'm going to already do all of those things anyway. It doesn't affect my work week and what I do. I'm going to go ahead and do what I always do and incorporate it all. But what I'd like to see is that when we come back on a Tuesday night, say, before practice, or Monday night, say, before practice on Wednesday, we're putting together that practice plan for this week's scout, because we've all gone away and watched that film on the opponent. Hopefully, because of what we run and what we're doing, we all have that same picture, and we all put it together, and I'm like, oh, they're in cover two, coach, so we can run Sarah, we can run corner, etc. And I'm like, that's great. That's great observations, etc., etc. Same way that we praise the players, we praise the coaches, you know, and we give them more. And then we approach that the same way that we approach every other aspect of it, and it builds their confidence and gives them the opportunity to be a leader, even if it's only a mini leader. And that's where my next point is. I asked them to lead their unit. I asked them to be, and I'll make a post about it on Facebook or whatever group thing we're using. Used to be in Facebook of times, but I'll put on there and I will say, Joe Bloggs, receivers. Joe Bloggs is your receiver coach. He's your first point of contact, not me. It's him. You report to him. You tell him. You tell him if you're not coming to practice. You tell him if you are coming to practice. You tell him what you need to know, and that way he gets involved in every aspect of what they do. He takes ownership of that group. He takes ownership of everything, and he learns how to lead and be a leader of that unit. And what we're doing when we do all these things is that we're trying to give them ownership of something and have responsibilities. So they're not just a figure who turns up on a Tuesday and throws a ball to a receiver. They have ownership of everything that we do. We're trying to make them bigger and a bulky part of our staff. And then when we incorporate everything that we're doing in, we prepare them. Well, I prepare them, or I try and prepare them. And so these are some of the things that I do to prepare them. So as I talked about before, if I say to Kevin, we're running slanted outs this week. I want slanted outs to be repped in our indie time. I let him go ahead and source his own drills. Let him take ownership of all that. All I expect him to do. I mean, if he comes back and double checks with me, brilliant. You know, I will prefer that. If he came back as a coach, I'm going to do this and this because it fits this. I'm like, that's perfect, coach. But the first step of our development really is we let them source their own drills. We don't just give them a drill sheet. You know, what would fit this? What would you do? And they go ahead and do it. And then over time, or as they get a bit more into it, we start letting them lead aspects of practice. And when I say aspects of practice, usually maybe if you're an online coach and you're trying to go through all that, we'll let you take that run skelly. I'll let you take that run skelly. I may go and work with receivers, the receivers coach, and I'll let you take ownership of that. We record it so I can see back what we do. You know, there's no missing of stuff. You know, I'm going to let him take ownership of that. Let him take ownership of it. Let him feel like he's leading that aspect of the unit, and we'll swap it over. And then some weeks I'll go with the run skill. and the receivers coach or the QB coaches, they'll run the pass game, and they'll take ownership of that, and they'll call the plays that we're running on 7v7, etc., and they'll get on with it. And again, we'll come back, we'll watch the film, and we'll talk about as a staff what we're running and why we're running, because they know that what we put into place usually going to be incorporated into the ISIT plan, so we know why we're doing it. One of the main things that I learned and moved on from, or moved to, should I say, in the back end of 17. I've been coaching 18, so I had a lot of time to think about it. Was I make the guys, or I ask the guys, but really I'm making them. I make the guys break down the end of practices or the end of team periods. So if we've got 6 people on staff, then we'll rotate those 6 people. I might be the 7th. Or if we have a really shitty practice, I might say, you know what, let me step in and talk about this. But I will ask them to break down end of practices so that they get an opportunity to stand in front of 15, 20 people and talk. One of the most important things that we never get taught to do, and for a lot of us, we're not educators. We're just guys off the street who've got a regular job. We're not used to speaking to 30 people at a time. I know when I did it the first time, it was so nerve wracking, and it's the same goes for when you're leading film. Who teaches you to lead film? Nobody. I remember taking my first film session, leading it after the game, and I was so nervous because nobody. You see other coaches do, but you've got to do it yourself. You don't appreciate the pressure that you put yourself under, and the tightness that can get. Somebody that I've got a big voice, and when I do feel under a little bit of pressure, my voice goes naturally faster. So at times, those star periods of my own coaching career, I have to deal with all that aspect of it, and really try and get a grip on it. So I'm trying to give them a leg up by saying, you know what, coach, Kev, you take the end of practice breakdown today. And when I ask them to take it, all I want them to do is speak to the people so the guys understand they're not just a face. The receiver might know who they are because they're a receivers coach, but the rest of the offense probably doesn't know who he really is. In the bubble. So he leads. He gets the chance to speak to the whole offense. He tells them how we thought about what we did in practice today, and he gets that 45 seconds, 50 seconds, whatever it takes for him to be in that center circle and talk to a lot of people. And that's why I think that's one of the most valuable parts about incorporating that into your staff. Get them to do it, whether it's in the practices or in the team periods. And you get them to break down their units all the time anyway. So we ask them to keep on them and get used to talking and leading. And then when we're moving through our pre-season, etc., you get to see who's coming through, who wants to do more. So I'll expand their roles at practice. So if we're going through on air, I may ask Kevin. I say, Kev, you got 10 minutes off to go, and he'll just call the plays on air. He'll signal them in. He'll get used to having that ideal of I'm on the sideline, I'm calling the plays to the QBs or the offense in this case, we know into the whole offense, and getting used to that aspect of calling the play, getting it out, calling the play. He doesn't know why he's calling that play yet, but he's getting used to doing the mechanics of calling the play, getting it out, calling the play, getting it out. So that's what we do. We want to expand their roles bit by bit, and that might take a year, that might take 2 years, depends on how long you've got, and how much time you want to put into them, and how much time they want to give to you. So then, when we do that and we get into games, I like to get the coaches involved on a game day. I've been at many games where we get there on a game day. If you're not the offensive coordinator, then you're not really doing a fat lot. You might speak to your unit when you come off. If there's a fumble or if there's a pickup, like what's happened here, and then you might get to sure, can I bring in Steve? He's not had a go yet, and the LC will say yeah, we're getting in. So what I don't want to do is that. I want to get them involved on game days. So as a staff, from warm ups to the start, the roles will be like just like when we're doing scout. Kev, tell me what coverages they're in, who's their weakest guy, etc., etc. Does it match what we saw on Scout? He has a role. They'll come back and tell me. The same with the O-line coach, same with the running back coach, etc., etc. They all have roles for the game. They all chip in. And what I also do is I get them to do dummy calling and keeping involved, just keeping involved in the game day. Let them get involved in that game day experience. Of course, if we're up by a few or down by a few, if you've got that one guy who you think he's got he's gaining that knowledge, he's getting more and more, he wants more and more. Let him take a quarter. Let him take a few drives at the end of the game. If you win or you lose, it doesn't really matter if you win or losing big because you're either going to win anyway or you're going to lose anyway. So, you know what? Develop your coaches in that sense when you get the opportunity to. Because as I put there, we have to have that ours, not mine mentality. And that's how I've always gone into it for the last 4 years plus, is that it's not mine, it's ours. I'm trying to build you through. And I have said before that, I'm trying to initially or unintentionally develop my replacement because I'm not going to be here forever. People move on and things happen. So somebody's got to take this job when we move on or whatever we do. So we're trying to develop coaches to use and get better for themselves. And one of the other things that I did as well as that is I let the guys lead film. We used to when we were at Steelers, I broke it down into two parts. So we would have just like on pass scale and run scale, we would have our line and running backs, and we would have QBs and receivers in the room if we had the space, if we did. Okay, there's many times, lots of times that the our line coach has led QBs, has led our line and backs, and the QB coach or receiver coach will lead the QB receiver film. And you could be in any of those rooms. I've been in those rooms. I've sat there at the back to watch them and talk. If talks about something, if there's an aspect of the film I need to talk about, because don't forget we've already broke down that film before we get to players to watch film. We've already brought that down as a staff. We know what we're going to talk about, whether there's been a breakdown in this play here or whether there's been a good execution of a play here. We know what we're going to talk about because we've already spoke about it as a staff, so they can deliver that to the players. But all we're doing is giving them experience of being around a group of guys in a situation which is uncommon and unnatural. And the only way to do things is to get better at it, and to get better at it using experience. And that's basically what it comes down to. And those few little things, for me and my way of developing coaches, I'm not asking to take on board my offense. I'm not asking the board to keep alive my terminology. I don't care about any of that. But if I can take the things that we do and we use on a regular basis and take them as their own and use them and down the line, then we've done good. One thing that I remind everybody of that's been under my, we'll say, roof, whether it's been a player or a coach, you remind them constantly that your door is always open, because your door is always open. My door is always open, and I'll say that to anybody that's ever been around me, the player or the coach, and I will hopefully have people test that. You need help, I'm here. If you want to talk about something, I'm here. Doors open. But what we're trying to do and what we're asking them to do is come on board, listen, get used to these things, because at the end of the day, we're preparing them to lead. And the only way to prepare them to lead is by giving them experience. And this is my final thoughts on this little topic, because a lot of people look at why are we developing what we're doing, and I always see it in this way. We're not trying to create culture. I'm not trying to have 5 guys under me going, oh yeah, I'm part of this. That's never going to happen. Not at our level. It's never going to happen. Don't try and be that. Oh, I came through this guy. That it's never going to be. There's never going to be culture trees in this country. Don't try and be a branch or think you can make branches of your culture tree. Not going to happen. Not going to work. We're not trying to do it. We're not trying to. We don't have to be someone's mentor. If someone wants to come to you and take you under their wing, and that's great. But you don't have to. Oh, I need to take these guys on. You don't have to do that. Every little thing that we do help a coach, whether you think it's important or not. They might take that one little thing and run with it, and they might take 10 things that you've said and not ever use them. But it's like one thing that they took. That's the most important part. And from a lot of the speaking and listening that I do about people giving and sharing, no one is trying to take your job, and no one is stealing your offense. This I can promise you. No one is trying to take your job. No one is trying to steal what you run. Because at the end of the day, it's all been run before. You've got nothing new, just your way of doing it. So we've all been there. We've all tried to hold our playbook close to our chest, but I'm not giving away the secrets to this and this. It's irrelevant, fella. It's irrelevant. We as coaches need to get past that, especially in this country. No one's going to take your job. It's your job there until, because of where we are and what we do, it's your job there pretty much until you don't want it no more. We're not blessed to have millions of coaches in this country. It's going to be your job until you don't want it anymore. And nobody is trying to take your playbook and take your system. My final point is the reason why I do this and the reason why we should all do this, because we want to see people succeed. We want to see people get better, and we want to see coaching in this country, at the highest level possible, and we want to see football in this country at the highest level possible. And that's how I feel about coaching development, and that's my angle on it, and that's how I've always approached it. So hopefully, gents, there's something that you have heard today that you've learned. If not, it's all good. Again, I'm not gonna say I'm no oracle. I don't claim to be. I'm no wise man. Just a regular dude talking about what he does, trying to make this work in this coaching world. So I appreciate you guys jumping on, taking a listen, taking a watch. But for now, gents, I will see you all very soon. So take care.